The love of my life paid me to date him. You know that feeling when you think you've hit rock bottom and the universe just laughs in your face and hands you a shovel? That's me right now. Standing in a crowded bar, wearing a maid uniform complete with frilly lace, thigh-high stockings, and, for some reason, cat ears. No, it's not Halloween. It's a regular Thursday night. The bar owner swears it's great for tips. The customers love it, he said, waving a dismissive hand when I balked at the outfit during my first shift. You'll get used to it. Spoiler alert, I haven't gotten used to it. I've been here 3 months, and every night feels like a new level of humiliation. But the rent isn't going to pay itself, so here I am, holding a tray of overpriced cocktails, dodging grabby hands, and praying I can make it through the night without dying of embarrassment. I'm leaning on the bar counter, waiting for the bartender to finish a new round of drinks, when I feel it. That weird prickling sensation on the back of your neck when someone's staring at you. I turn toward the crowd, and that's when my stomach drops. It's him, Xavier Bennett. The guy who used to sit 2 rows ahead of me in Econ 101, who I definitely didn't spend all of freshman year staring at like some lovesick idiot. He's older now, obviously, but still stupidly attractive in a way that feels like a personal attack. His black hair is perfectly styled, his olive green eyes are just as sharp as I remember, and the tailored suit he's wearing probably costs more than my monthly rent. And here I am, dressed like this. For one insane second, I think about ducking behind the bar or pretending I didn't see him. But no, life isn't that kind. His gaze locks onto mine, and his expression shifts from casual interest to outright recognition. Oh no. I straighten up and plaster on the most professional smile I can manage under the circumstances. I grab the tray of drinks and force myself to step out from behind the bar. Roman? His voice cuts through the din of the crowd, low and warm, and oh God, he remembers my name. My cheeks are on fire, but I turn to face him anyway because apparently I have a death wish. Hey, a long time no see. Smooth. Real smooth. About half an hour later, I thought the weirdest part of my night was running into Xavier while dressed like a reject from some maid cafe cosplay. Turns out I was wrong. Somehow Xavier managed to charm my manager into letting me leave early, claiming we needed to catch up. Next thing I know, I'm sitting across from him at a little cafe down the street, dressed in my regular clothes, feeling almost human again. Almost. We're doing the usual catch-up routine, how have you been, what have you been doing these days, blah blah blah. I'm trying to think about how surreal it is to be sitting here with him, and I'm definitely trying not to think about how good he looks up close. Then out of nowhere, he drops it. I want to hire you to be my boyfriend. I blink at him. Sure I misheard. What? He doesn't even flinch. I'm serious, I need someone to pretend to date me in front of my family, and I'll pay you well. Really well. My brain short circuits. But you're straight, right? I mean, you had so many girlfriends in college. Xavier laughs, and it's this warm, easy sound that doesn't match the chaos he's just unleashed on my life. I'm not straight. I'm bi. Always have been. And for the record, I only had 2 girlfriends in college. People just like to exaggerate. I stare at him, still trying to process. So, you want me to date you? Fake date you? Pretend to date me? He corrects, like that makes it any less insane. I'm desperate and running out of time, and seeing you tonight, well, I figured you could use the money. Plus, you're one of the few people I know who will not take advantage of me. I'm speechless. Completely and utterly speechless. But then he reaches across the table and places his hand over mine. His eyes are steady, serious. Please, Roman, I really need your help. And just like that, all my sanity flies out the window. Fine, I'll do it. What have I gotten myself into? 3 days later. Xavier's family home is enormous. Like, you need a map to find the bathroom enormous. Walking into the living room feels like stepping onto the set of a holiday movie, complete with warm lighting, a crackling fireplace, and family members chatting over wine. I'm awkwardly hovering by the door when Xavier slides an arm around my waist. It's casual, but the warmth of his hand sends my pulse racing. "Everyone," he says with that effortlessly charming smile, "this is Roman, my boyfriend." A dozen pairs of eyes zero in on me, and I forget how to breathe. "Hi," I manage, trying not to sound like I'm on the verge of passing out. His mom, a petite woman with a kind smile, pulls me into a hug. "It's so lovely to meet you, Roman. Xavier's told us so much about you." "Oh, has he? That's news to me." The whole evening, Xavier keeps up the act flawlessly. He pulls out my chair at dinner, laughs at all my awkward jokes, and even sneaks a kiss on my temple when he thinks no one's looking. His dad raises an eyebrow, but doesn't comment. It's not until we're alone in the car later that I finally speak up. "You didn't have to go all out, you know?" Xavier glances at me, his expression unreadable. "Why not? You're supposed to be my boyfriend, right?" 2 weeks later. Xavier's cousin's engagement party is in full swing, and I'm doing my best not to look like the outsider I obviously am. The house is packed with people, all laughing, drinking, and swapping stories like they've known each other forever. Which they probably have. Meanwhile, I'm clinging to my glass of sparkling water like it's a lifeline. But Xavier? He's in his element. He keeps his arms slung casually around my shoulders, pulling me into conversations like I belong here. Every time someone makes a toast or tells a joke, he leans in close, his breath warm against my ear, and murmurs something just for me. "Uncle Greg's speech count is already up to 4, he whispers at one point, and I nearly choke on my drink trying not to laugh. It's weird. He's so good at this. Too good. The way he looks at me, the way his hand finds mine when I fidget, even the way he laughs at my jokes like they're actually funny. It feels real." At one point, his aunt leans over during dinner and nudges me with a knowing smile. "You're good for him, you know," she says, her voice low like she's sharing a secret. I blink at her. "Oh, thanks," I mumble, glancing at Xavier. He hears her, of course, and squeezes my hand under the table. When I glance at him, he's already looking at me with this soft, almost proud smile. My chest tightens and I quickly look away, trying to remember that this is all an act. None of it is real. But the warmth in his gaze lingers long after the party ends. And for the first time, I'm not so sure. Over a week later. The rain is coming down in sheets, the kind of downpour that soaks you to the bone in seconds. I'm standing by the front doors of the department store, staring out at the mess and debating whether to just make a run for it. No umbrella, no jacket. Classic me. When my shift ends, I step outside, bracing myself for the inevitable drenching. But then I see it. A sleek car parked at the curb, headlights cutting through the rain. The window rolls down and Xavier's familiar face appears. "Need a ride," he says, like this is the most normal thing in the world. I blink at him, caught completely off guard. "What are you doing here?" He shrugs, like it's no big deal. "I know what time you get off, and I figured you wouldn't have brought an umbrella, so I came." Just like that. Like it's the most natural thing in the world for him to show up out of nowhere and save the day. I climb into the car, dripping wet and shivering, and he reaches into the back seat to grab a towel. "Here," he says, handing it to me. His voice is soft, but there's something about the way he looks at me. Like I matter. I sit there, drying off in silence, my heart doing weird little flips. This was more than he needed to do. A lot more. And for the first time, I start to doubt if this is all really just pretend. 3 days later. The family movie night was winding down. Most of the relatives had filtered out, heading home after a couple of hours of cheesy rom-coms and snacks. Now it's just Xavier, his parents, and me sitting on the couch in his living room, surrounded by empty wine glasses and half-eaten plates of food. The TV is still on, but I'm not really paying attention anymore. His hand is casually resting on the arm of the couch, just inches away from mine. We're sitting close. Too close for two people who are supposed to just be pretending. I keep telling myself this is just part of the deal, but every time he shifts, it feels like I'm hyper-aware of him, of the way his leg brushes mine or how his breath feels when he talks. I try to focus on the movie playing on the screen, but it's no use. After some time, Xavier's parents decided to leave too. His mom kissed him goodbye, his dad clapped him on the back. They left us alone in the living room, which feels strangely intimate now, with only the flickering lights from the TV making the room feel warm. Xavier's hand shifts closer to mine, and I can't stop the tiny grasp that escapes my lips when his fingers brush against mine. His eyes meet mine, and for a second, everything around us fades away. "Roman," he says, voice soft but intense. His face is dangerously close now. I can feel his breath against my skin and smell the faint scent of his cologne. I'm frozen, my heart thumping in my chest. I'm supposed to pull away, tell him this is just for show, but I can't. Before I can even think, he pulls back, sitting upright and clearing his throat. "Sorry, I didn't mean to make things weird." And just like that, the moment's gone. But the tension between us lingers. I can't help but wonder if maybe, just maybe, he was about to kiss me for real. A week later. The more time I spend with Xavier, the harder it is to keep my head straight. He keeps doing these little things, holding my hand just a little too long, flashing me that smile that makes my stomach flip, treating me like I matter. It's all starting to feel too real. But I keep telling myself it's just part of the deal. We're sitting in his living room watching TV after a family dinner. His arms draped over the back of the couch, and every time he laughs, he nudges me with his shoulder, like we've been together forever. I keep looking at him, wondering if he feels it too. "Roman," he says, his voice soft like he's trying to say something important. I swallow hard, nerves tightening in my chest. "Yeah?" He doesn't answer right away. Instead, he just looks at me, his gaze a little too intense, and for a second I forget to breathe. Then he grins, like he's hiding something, and it's like the moment never happened. But it did, and it messes with me. I know this whole thing is fake. I know we're not really dating. It's just a deal. He has saved me from degrading jobs, and I'm simply playing the part he asked me to. But every time he's sweet to me, I wonder if he's actually feeling something or if it's just another part of the act. The lines are starting to blur, and I don't know what's real anymore. If I let myself fall for him again, I'm scared. Scared that in the end, I'll be just another transaction in a deal he doesn't care about. 2 weeks later. I've spent a lot of time with Xavier's family these past few weeks, and honestly, I'm starting to feel like I'm part of the crew. I'm not just the guy he's pretending to date anymore. I've become one of them. His cousins joke around with me, his aunt and uncle invite me over for barbecues, and I've gotten comfortable enough that I can joke back without feeling out of place. Tonight we're all hanging out at his cousin Olivia's place. The living room is buzzing with conversation, everyone catching up after the week. I'm sitting next to Xavier, his hand resting on my knee like it's the most natural thing in the world. I feel a little happy, I guess. Soon he's called over by one of his other cousins, and that's when one of his cousins, Mark, leans over, clearly tipsy from a few too many beers. "You know, when Xavier first brought you around, we all thought you were just some guy he was paying to pretend to be his boyfriend. The inheritance thing, right?" I freeze, unsure if I heard him right. "What inheritance?" I ask, trying to keep my voice steady. Mark laughs, rolling his eyes. "Oh, didn't you know? The whole family has this old will from Grandpa. Each of us gets a share of the estate when and if we find the right match by 30. Someone our parents approve of course." "So what, you thought Xavier brought me here to get the inheritance?" I asked, chuckling. That sounded fake to even my own ears. "Exactly," he says, shrugging. "But now we all see it. You too? Yeah, it's not fake. He really loves you." My stomach drops. Everything I thought was real, everything I let myself hope for, was nothing more than a business deal. The inheritance, the match, it all makes sense now. I laugh, forcing it out like it's no big deal. "Right," I say, brushing it off, but inside I'm a mess. It hits me then. I was just a pawn in a game I didn't even know I was playing. And I feel stupid for even thinking there was something real between us. A week later. I'd been walking for what felt like hours, just trying to make sense of everything. The past few days had been a blur. Xavier, the deal, the family, my growing feelings for him. I didn't know what was real anymore, or if I was just setting myself up for a heartbreak I couldn't avoid. My head was full of noise, and I needed space to think. On my way back home, I passed by a cafe where I spotted them. Xavier and a woman, standing just outside the door, chatting and laughing. The moment my eyes landed on them, everything around me seemed to fade away. They were so comfortable. Too comfortable. Her hand was resting lightly on his arm, their faces close as they joked with each other. Xavier was smiling at her in that way he only did with me. a softness in his expression that made my heart thud in my chest. The jealousy hit me fast, sharp, and I couldn't look away. My stomach turned, the lump in my throat making it hard to breathe. I wanted to be angry, but I felt sad, hurt. Why did it bother me so much? I was supposed to be okay with this whole thing being a business deal. But seeing them together, seeing him so natural with her, was like a punch to the gut. They looked like they belonged together, like they had something real. Something I'd convinced myself was between us. I started walking again, my steps heavy and unsure. Why didn't he just date her? Why keep up the charade with me when he was clearly with someone else in front of the family? I thought about it over and over. Why even need me? If he's already got someone who fits the mold, why keep pretending with me? What was I to him? Just a part of the deal? Just a placeholder until he figured things out? The question kept swirling, and the confusion dug deeper. I couldn't stop wondering if everything between us had ever been anything more than a lie. 2 days later, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was just a convenient prop in Xavier's life. The more I thought about it, the more it stung. It wasn't about the inheritance or the fake dating. It was about how deeply I had gotten involved, and how little it seemed to matter to him. I'd already made up my mind. I was leaving. I needed space, time to figure myself out, to stop pretending. The hurt I felt from watching him with that woman, the confusion from our entire situation, had built up to a point where I couldn't ignore it anymore. I had to end this. I sat at the kitchen table, scribbling down my feelings in a letter. My hand shook as I wrote, the words coming out more painful than I expected. Xavier, I've been thinking a lot and I've come to a decision. I need to step away from this whole situation. I can't keep pretending, especially when I don't even know if anything between us is real. I thought we had something genuine, but it seems like it was always just a deal for you. And I can't keep doing this to myself. I've decided to go visit my family out of state for a while to clear my head. I'm taking the first flight out tomorrow morning. I'm sorry if this hurts you, but I need some space to figure things out. I hope you understand. Roman. I folded the letter carefully and later that evening left it on the side table by his bed. There was no turning back now. I needed to be somewhere else, far from this mess, to reset my mind. The next morning I stood in the airport terminal, my suitcase by my side, ready to board the flight that would take me away from everything. It wasn't a permanent fix, but it felt like the only option. I was already exhausted from the constant uncertainty and hurt. My trail of thought for some reason was oddly silent, broken only by the constant buzz of my phone. Xavier had called me several times already, each notification pulling me back into the mess I was trying to escape. I couldn't bring myself to answer, my hands shaking each time I saw his name on the screen. Just as I was about to check in at the gate, I heard a familiar voice call my name. Roman! I turned around, my stomach twisting when I saw Xavier standing there, out of breath, his hands on his knees like he'd been running to catch up with me. I felt a lump in my throat as he walked up to me. I thought you'd be gone by now. I nodded, but I couldn't hide the emotion in my eyes. You shouldn't have come. Xavier looked at me, his eyes full of something deeper than I'd ever seen. Please don't go, Roman. I've been thinking about everything, and I can't just let you walk away like this. I know you're hurt, and I know I messed up, but what we have, it's real. I raised an eyebrow, shaking my head. Real? Xavier, how am I supposed to believe that? Everything we've done, everything between us, it's all been part of the deal. You are even with someone else. I saw you with her the other day. It doesn't make sense. What is this to you? What am I to you? Just a contract? Xavier winced, his face tightening. No, Roman, she's my sister. I blinked, confused. Your sister? He nodded quickly. I and a few of my cousins are the only ones she is in touch with. Our family cut her off because she was with someone much older than her, but I've always been there for her. It's not what you think. I stared at him, trying to process it all. So what? You're not actually dating her? No, Roman. His voice was firm now, his eyes searching mine. I'm not dating her. I've been pretending with you because, well, yes, because of the inheritance I know Mark let slip in front of you, but also because I was too scared to admit the truth. I'm in love with you. All of it. The gestures, the affection. It wasn't part of the deal. It was real. I've been falling for you, and I didn't know how to tell you. My heart raced, the confusion in her from the past few days slowly fading. It wasn't a game. You wasn't using me. But why didn't you just tell me? Xavier sighed, stepping closer. I didn't want to risk you walking away, like you are now. I was scared too that what if I was just a deal to you? But I can't let you go without telling you how I feel. I love you, Roman. I felt my walls crumble as I looked into his eyes. Everything I'd been unsure about seemed to fall into place. I love you too, I whispered. He smiled, relief washing over his face. So please, Roman, no more running, no more pretending. Let's do this for real. With my heart pounding in my chest, I nodded. For real. And with that, he pulled me into his arms, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like everything was finally falling into place. 3 months later, the room was filled with laughter and warmth as I looked around at Xavier's family. They were all so welcoming, like they'd been waiting for this moment just as much as we had. It was strange in the best way how comfortable I felt in this space, surrounded by people who now felt like my own. Xavier was by my side, his hand gently brushing mine, a soft smile on his lips. We'd come so far from where we started, and standing here, in front of everyone, I couldn't help but feel the weight of everything that had led us to this point. No contracts, no fake dating, just us. And it was real. All of it. His parents were talking to my mom, and a couple of cousins were chatting nearby, but my focus was completely on him. The moment was ours, and I couldn't take my eyes off him. He caught my gaze and winked, making me blush. His smile was warm, genuine, and it made everything else fade away. I still can't believe you're doing this, I said, my voice low enough for just him to hear. This whole thing, it's real, isn't it? He chuckled softly, his fingers slicing through mine. Yeah, it's real. I'm sure of it, Roman. You've always been real to me. My heart swelled. I feel the same way. We were standing at the center of the room now. Everyone gathered around as Xavier's mother raised a glass. She gave us both a proud, teary-eyed smile, and in that moment, I knew we had their full support. The feeling of being so sure about each other, the love we shared, it was everything I'd ever wanted. Here's to a lifetime of love and happiness, Xavier's mom said, her voice full of emotion. To love, Xavier added, his hand still holding mine tightly. We toasted and I smiled, feeling like we were exactly where we were supposed to be. Together. Forever. Conclusion. Looking back, it's hard to believe how crazy this whole journey has been. From pretending to date Xavier for money to now, standing here, about to marry him. I never imagined I'd end up in a place like this, especially not after everything we've been through. The inheritance, which seemed like just a way out for Xavier, turned out to be a lifeline. I found out he was desperate not just for the money, but because he had this amazing idea for a business. A nonprofit that helps underprivileged youth get access to education and job training in creative fields. It's a program where young people can learn skills like graphic design, coding, photography, anything that lets them build a career while also giving back to their communities. Xavier didn't just want to secure his future with the estate, he wanted to make a real difference. Now with the business up and running, it's thriving. Things are looking up for us, both professionally and personally. Our lives are finally falling into place, and it's not about contracts anymore. It's about us. We've built something real together, and I know we're secure. Looking ahead, I'm just excited for everything that's to come. Together forever. The end. Would you date your ex-crush if you got a chance? Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become a part of our Rainbow Force and stay wholesome.